to 30 Minutes of Faith. We have with us today Owen Burgess, who happens to be a friend of mine and also sort of the technical creative genius here at the television stations, while the rest of us run around and do the things we do. Welcome, Owen.
Hey, thank you, John.
Thanks for being here. This is going to be fun. So where were you born and raised?
I was born in Canada, but my father was a cowboy, so we kind of had to follow where the work was, and so I was raised in all across the West, Idaho, New Mexico, even a little time in Oregon. So it just really had a variety of different places we lived on different ranches, and my dad just followed where the work was, and he kind of drifted away from the cold north and went all the way to New Mexico to find some warm country.
And did you grow up punching cattle and riding range and all that stuff?
Yeah, I did a little bit of everything. Did a lot of fencing. That was kind of the first thing, I guess, as a kid.
My grandfather used to send my brother and I out to ride fence. Yeah. Go out there as far as the horizon, come back when you're done.
Yeah, go until you have enough time to get back, and so we did a lot of that to begin with. And then as I got a little older and more skilled as a rider, we did like cattle drives and stuff like that, and just a lot of fun.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have one brother. He's about 4 years younger than me, but I'm like the little brother now because he like shot up like a he's like 6'6", so it's we have a good relationship.
Where did you graduate from high school?
I graduated from Pine Hills Adventist Academy. That's up in Auburn. So yeah, it was a Seventh-day Adventist high school. Yeah. And
was that a good time? You had a good time growing up, and adolescence was good to you?
Yeah, it was a great time. It was I had a lot of fun, but it was one of those weird things where like we had such a small school that we all, like, everyone kind of felt like maybe there could be something else, like, man, we can't wait to get to college because then there'll be all these people, right? So it was kind of this interesting. We only had a graduating class of 13, so we all knew each other like so well, and it was kind of like we were ready to explore the outside world. We kind of felt like we were this small knit group. So
are your parents still living?
My mother's still living. My father died when I was about 13. Yeah, he came down with lymphoma cancer, and so when he died, we moved out to California, and that's why I went to high school up here in Auburn.
Did you have a relationship with grandparents?
Yeah, I had a great relationship with them, actually, because my mom ended up getting married after that, and we didn't really like our stepdad that much, and so so we would actually go up to my grandparents' house, and they live up in Bedford, Oregon, and we would go up there on the summers and like help Grandpa out, with the yard work, and live up there all summer until we had to start school again, and then we'd come back down.
I have a stepfather of 51 years. He's still alive. He's in his 90s. And he never was my father. He was always Mother's husband.
Right.
But he was honest and hardworking and decent, and no one ever had to worry where he was or what he was doing, and he was honest and filled with integrity. And of course the grandchildren come along and they don't know any other grandfather. My father to them is just a picture on the wall. Grandpa's really right over there. And our children and our grandchildren have really, really loved and enjoyed my stepfather. I don't suppose it's easy to be a stepfather. It's not easy to be a stepchild.
Yeah, definitely. It was challenges on both sides, and my mom actually divorced our first stepdad. It was not a good situation, but now she's married to a wonderful guy. They live up in Fiddletown, California, and we've actually gotten to know him a lot better, and he was just a much better guy, and so he works with her in ministry and things like that, so that's a much better situation.
When we moved to California 30 years ago, somebody said to me, you got to go up to Fiddletown and check out the general store.
Yeah.
And we did, and sure enough, the guys were fiddling and playing, and they had green licorice and all those other sorts of things. I missed that. Did you give any consideration to being a rancher or a cowboy as you started to get to be 16 or 17 or 18?
You know what? It was one of those things where we moved to California, and California just has its effect on you. I don't know. Like I was really young, and so I only had, I was 13 when we moved to California. So I kind of just let it all go. Like it was one of those things where it was a traumatic experience, the experience losing my dad, and so. We had, you kind of just adapt. Like you get to a new place, it's completely foreign. you know, and I have all my rancher friends back home telling me don't become a Californian, you know, always stay true to your roots. And but it was like, in order to adapt to this new situation, I just really had to, I guess at the time, felt the need to kind of like acclimatize myself to the new culture, and kind of just became a California boy over the period of that time.
I milked growing up and irrigated and hayed and all those other sorts of things, and just promised myself I would never do that stuff. Really hard to milk cold winter mornings. And,
Oh yeah.
And summer nights irrigating interrupts your dating and all those other sorts of things. But the one thing I think farming and ranching teaches you is how to work.
Yeah, true.
You know how to work.
Yep. It kind of gave me that foundation, definitely, and it's transitioned into my other career.
So after high school, what did you decide to do?
So after high school, it's funny coming to California and living on the ranches before that. We never really watched TV, never really watched movies or anything like that. So when I came to California, I was kind of introduced to the theater. You know, we had a TV, got our DVD player when I was like 14 or 15, and started watching movies. And I just like fell in love with movies. I watched them as much as I could. I remember my mom got like the gold Blockbuster card because me and my friends watched so many movies on the card, you know, from Blockbuster, that we like got a new membership where we get a free DVD every time we rented one. So it was pretty cool, and I just fell in love with storytelling and all of that, and decided, hey, I'm going to go to film school, find out what I can do, you know, and see if I can make those movies, you know. So I went to film school and went to Brooks Institute of Photography. Got a great education there studying film, and just really got to learn how it really works, you know, how as a career it's a lot of hard work. It's not like the movies. You have this finished product that's beautiful, but in order to create that, you know, there's just a million people that work together. So it's kind of been an interesting learning process.
And our viewers probably wouldn't stop to completely understand that after all of the talking and all the camera rolling, somebody's got to edit that and put that together. It's got to have continuity and professionalism, and that's not easy to do. I mean, that you have to be trained and work how to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And we think we've got a real good one here, so hang in there. Now listen, I want to talk to you too about, I have met your girlfriend Rachel, and she's a lovely, lovely girl. I know that her father was in an accident or something not too long ago. How is he doing?
He's doing a lot better now. He's in a terrible accident, had some head trauma. So he's still dealing with that, but he's out of the hospital now. He's back home. That's where he's comfortable. He was terrified of the hospital. Couldn't wait to get out. He was quite a grumpy old man, you know, while he's in the hospital. So, you know, now he's out. He's in his comfort place. The only thing he's got to worry about now is getting over that head trauma. So he's making some association problems with words, like he'll say his left closet hurts, or he didn't know who the president was. He was like, he thought Nixon was the president. So he's still got some things he got to work on with the cognitive ability, and they're going to be working with him. But he's back home, so it's good.
Now, are you still practicing Seventh-day Adventist approach to religion?
You know, I'm actually not. I really had a hard time with that in high school. It really didn't meet my needs, I guess. I was very practical, and when I would go to the church, you know, it was kind of like they kept talking to me about the kind of like what at the time I felt was airy-fairy stuff, you know, like how does that apply to me here and on this earth right now, you know? They kept talking about the future and Jesus will come in the cloud someday, and it just like, well, what about now? Like, what's going on now? And so I never really had that experience of Jesus that everyone was talking about, and so I found it really challenging, and so I kind of like drifted away from the church, and even kind of in college. Once I got to college, I just ran into all these atheists, you know. And so you start thinking about that. It's a pretty big influence, you know, when all your peers are, you know, pretty much atheist for the most part. Even the teachers in film, a lot of them are atheist. And so it was kind of like exploring that a little bit, you know, studying a little Darwin, thinking, man, Darwin doesn't got it, you know. That doesn't really work either, you know. And so it kind of like, that didn't work for me at all. Like there was still a God, like my foundation of growing up on ranches and nature and everything, there's still so much power there that I knew wasn't explained by atheism. And so I really found my connection with learning from some writers like Vernon Howard and Eckhart Tolle. I kind of found these tapes from a friend, and he was sharing them with me, and I started listening to this stuff. And they were talking about the moment, talking about now and what can you do now to overcome your issues and your anxieties and the answers to life. And it was so much more practical, and it also like brought me back to that nature, because nature's always in the moment. When you're out there riding the horse and fixing fence, everything's about that moment, about being out there fixing problems. And so it kind of Vernon Howard's teachings and Eckhart Tolle's teachings really kind of gave me an answer, to what I was looking for. And so it's brought me back. It's brought me back to not to Adventism per se, but definitely to a spiritual life. And I'm getting into meditation and yoga and really getting my soul filled, from those things.
And we all have to find our own path.
Right.
It's why people proselyte or say to your neighbor, let me tell you about God.
Right.
They realize somebody's looking for their own path.
Yeah, exactly.
When you were talking about nature a minute ago, and you and I talked earlier about Central America, all of my life I have been told there aren't crocodiles in the Western Hemisphere, that there are only alligators. And we've been in Africa on a couple of occasions, and crocodiles are everywhere, and they're big. And the alligators in America, you see in Florida and that, it's a big lizard, but it's not like some big prehistoric thing. Okay. And the crocodile's really big.
I've never seen one.
Well, we got on this little cruise in Costa Rica, and we're going down around the bank, and there's a little sandbar out there. And there's a crocodile just sunning himself, and they claimed he was close to 100 years old based on his size.
Oh, wow.
That was the biggest crocodile I've ever seen. But I like to see that stuff. It feels right and orderly and good. They can't sweat, so he had his mouth open so he can breathe and cool down, and that was all explained to us. And it was orderly, and it all made sense. It was a good thing. So that feeling nature and the world and the life is good.
Yeah, definitely.
What are you doing hobby-wise with your life these days when you've got some spare time to just go have fun?
Yeah, hobby-wise, I actually just got into rock climbing. I have some crazy second cousins, my mom's cousins actually, and they're like crazy mountaineers. I mean, they climb every mountain they can find. They rock climb, all the Yosemite, El Capitan, all that. And so he took me out to this place called Lover's Leap up below South Lake Tahoe, Strawberry. And he took us out. He wanted to take us out rock climbing, me and my brother. And so we went and kind of had like I basically ran into a wall of fear. Basically, I got up there about 250 feet and just terrified me to death. But I kind of like reached my limit of fear. I'm not typically someone that's afraid. Maybe being in front of a camera, I'm a little bit afraid. But typically, I'm not afraid of much. And I hit my wall up there on that rock. And so it's kind of like gotten me excited about seeing if I can like overcome that. So I got a gym membership down here at Pipeworks. They have a wonderful rock climbing wall there, and so I've been just any chance I get going down there and practicing rock climbing, because I'm going to go back to Lover's Leap and finish that route, so.
I have a good friend that's an Elvis impersonator, and he's traveled all over the world, and he's really good at it, and he's very talented. He does it very, very well. He's made quite a lot of money doing it. But I said to him not too long ago, do you still get nervous? And he said, I get butterflies really bad.
Oh, wow.
But he said, I think it's good because it sort of sets me, and it straightens me out and help, I don't take anything for granted. I've got to rehearse and do. So maybe being nervous on the wall somewhere keeps you safe in that. Will you climb in Yosemite one of these days?
Oh yeah, he did take us down later. We did some like really simple stuff in Yosemite, and we actually took Rachel out there too, and she fell in love with it too. So it's nice. We kind of share that together, doing rock climbing. And yeah, definitely, I plan on taking it to Yosemite. I want to finish Lover's Leap first and overcome that initial fear, and then yeah, I don't know. Sky's the limit with rock climbing. There's never an end to rock climbing.
I want to go back to childhood for a minute, Owen.
Okay.
Do you feel like you were raised in a religious home?
Oh, I was definitely. Actually, very religious. Might have been a little bit of a reason why I rebelled, because it was my dad. Was a pretty strong elder in the church, and he preached on Revelation all the time. I remember those. I could almost recite to you all the the stuff out of Revelation just because I heard it so much. But it was a very loving home. Always, I always felt the love from both my parents. The religion was maybe almost too much at the time, because it was definitely part of the reason why I got away from it, because I just heard it all the time, and so it was definitely a religious home. Yeah.
Did you think your life had ended when your dad died?
It was weird. I never felt that way. It was one of those things where something really, there's just an extreme amount of loss, but that I knew I was so young. I knew it was a situation where, this isn't very typical. Most people have a dad a little bit longer than this, and I felt like, man, there's just so much life ahead of me. Like, what do I have to do now? I just got to keep going, and you have that profound loss, and you just learned we came together, me and my mom and my brother, like, had a much stronger bond after that, because we kind of just clung to each other. It was the only thing we had. So we kind of created a much stronger relationship between us three, and which also made it difficult for the stepdad to come in, because we had such a tight bond that it was rough for him. But no, you have that sense that your life's still going on, and you got to figure out how to do it, But at the time, it's just really hard, yeah.
What were your hobbies as a child?
As a child, oh man, cowboys and Indians, man. Me and my brother was always the cowboy and I was always the Indian. So I'd build the teepees and he would build the forts, and man, we had a blast. We lived out in the country, of course, and we had these mountains right behind our house, and so we would actually go up hiking in the mountains. Like, we had cliffs up there that we'd hike around, and man, we were just cowboys and Indians all day long. So it was a lot of fun.
Did you own a bicycle?
Yeah, we did actually. Yeah, we had 2 bicycles. Yeah, that was a lot of fun too. We got into quite a bit of trouble with the bikes. Like, me and my brother would be racing down these hills, and yeah, my brother actually one time, like, flew off the road into a barbed wire fence, because there's so many barbed wire fences everywhere, and we would, like, fly those things, and the brakes, went on it one time with my brother, and he just went flying into the fence. We had to pull him out of the barbed wire fence. But beyond that, it was good, just some cuts and scratches. And
I had an older brother get lost in a culvert one day.
Okay.
It wasn't a great big, giant culvert. It was big enough for kids to get in. But all I could think of was to run to the other side to see if he was going to survive. And about the time I got there, he just came shooting out there with the water. And all I could do was laugh. And of course, he was spitting and sputtering. He didn't think it was funny, but I thought it was a terribly funny thing. Now, what brought you to RCC TV?
You know what? Honestly, Sharita Walters. She, a wonderful lady that used to work for Amazing Facts, and I knew her having volunteered for Amazing Facts. They worked up there in their shipping department, and then also worked helping them with some camera operating out at the Sac Central, where they filmed Doug Batchelor.
Right.
And so I did that a lot in high school, and we became good friends with Sharita. And as soon as she got a card from my mom, and it's funny, the moms always take care of that stuff, right? The Christmas cards and stuff. She sent out a graduation card that I was graduating to everybody she knew, and Sharita got that, and she called me up and asked me if I wanted a job here at RCC TV. And at the time, I wasn't really enjoying the job I had down there, so I was like, man, I'm going to take advantage of this. And it was kind of nice to be able to come back home too. I was able to come back home and get a job at somewhere where I felt comfortable. So
what's your take on interfaith, the interdenominations, the faith community?
It's amazing. There's definitely a reason I'm here. That's where, kind of coming back to the spiritual aspect in my life, kind of going away from it for a while, and then really coming back to it. I think there's definitely a reason. That higher power, if you will, is putting me here for some sort of greater reason, because as I've been here, I've met other people that, specifically Bhavani Gerard. She's taught me about interfaith and what it really means on a soul level, and it just feels right. Finding out how we all are so alike, regardless of who we call God, what we call God. it's the way of the future, really. I mean, learning to work together regardless of the rituals or those types of things. You know, always staying strong in those rituals, because that's what, you know, is so important to us, and what allows us to reach God. But when it comes to working together as humans, you know, being able to put our differences aside and work together for the greater good, it's awesome. And I'm glad I can be a part of it here with the station.
Well, I'm glad you can too.
Yeah.
I have a personal opinion that says that personal, private religious practice is sacred and
Yes.
spiritual and deep, and I wish everyone would practice
Right.
private, you know, religious. But I also subscribe to Bishop Quinn saying that we, you know, all children of God, we all live in the same house. We just came through different doors. You know, we talk about that a lot. Because we do come from Montana or Texas or Central America or whatever, and we can't expect things in Nicaragua to be the same way they are in Bozeman, Montana.
Right.
So, you know, we have to learn to understand and get along together.
Yeah.
Now, what are you going to do in the next 10 or 15 years of your life?
Wow, you know, I really still have that passion for making films, and so one way or another I'm going to be, you know, directing and producing films. Definitely, that's still my goal. And then as far as, you know, RCC TV and the interfaith work, I will always stay in this. I'm actually in a program right now, Interfaith Studies program, to kind of learn more about each faith in the deeper traditions, and I feel like I'm definitely going to have a place there. Maybe, I don't know if it's going to be as far as becoming a minister or anything like that, but definitely being involved with the interfaith concept, and I plan on staying with that, you know, because it definitely feeds my soul. I think we're all in this together on this planet, and whatever we can do together to make it better, you know, that's my goal. So making films and and working with Interfaith, that's
lots of different ways to teach religion and
Yeah.
spirituality,
Yeah.
and all of those other things. Now, do you have desires to be a father? Are you looking in the future for starting a family and those kinds of things, or are you going to sort of be married to your work?
You know, that's hard. I'm actually right at the transition point of that. I think I need to make that decision, you know. It's like I started to feel that a little bit, like if I want to have a family in the next 10 years, I'll need to figure that out, you know. So it's one of those things that's hard for me, because I'm so passionate about my career, and I'm just not sure about the family part of it. Like, I would love it, and I know if I had it, I would put my whole heart into it, but I'm like right on the tipping edge there. I don't know which direction to go there.
Well, I'm not the matchmaker or the expert in all
Yeah.
of this, but I can tell you that nothing ever greater happened to me than to be a father.
Okay.
It just brings you so much joy. And in the meantime, you get to go on with your work and do all the other things. And then one of these days, the kids are grown up and gone, and you're still doing, you know, you're still plugging away at what you do.
Right.
Do you have, because you're younger than I am, and I'm old enough to be your father, do you have favorite music and food and culture and sort of things you gravitate to?
Oh yeah.
That's just comfortable for you?
I love Mexican food for some reason. I don't know if it's whether, you know, growing up in New Mexico, like almost everybody there made just fantastic Mexican food. So I definitely love Mexican food, and I'm trying to think of what else.
You talked about movies. Do you have a favorite movie?
Oh yeah, definitely. Heat. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. It's got Al Pacino and Robert De Niro going at it. Like Al Pacino's the cop and Robert De Niro's the bank robber, and it's just one of those great clashes of two great actors and two great concepts clashing, and I just love that. I love that film. So.
What do you listen to on your iPod?
Oh man, I listen to mostly rock and roll. I just love good rock and roll. Yeah, anything like, I have a lot of, getting into like these indie bands too. There's a lot of indie bands coming up right now. Like Fair to Midland is for one. It kind of like combines folk music with rock. So I kind of enjoy that, kind of the mixing of genres. So
well,
cool.
Speaking of rock and roll and Mexican, on the cruise that we're recently back from, they had a Mexican night at the buffet, and everything was themed out up on the upper deck, you know.
Oh,
But there were so many middle-aged and older people on that ship that I don't know, there's 3,000 passengers, and I'd say maybe 75 people showed up. And one of the women said to us there, she looked around and she said, wow, this is like going to Taco Bell in a rest home. And we had a good laugh over all of that.
That's funny.
Where will your passions be 30 years from now?
Oh man, it's so hard to look that far, but
are you sort of in a place now that you thought you would be when you were 15?
Not at all. Not at all, actually. In high school, I had no idea where I was going and that type of thing. I kind of thought, like, I was always told you go to college, and so I went to college and I would figure it out in college, you know, and in some ways I did, but then there's a lot more questions that arise when you go to college. So it's kind of been one of those things where I'm passionate about film, I'm passionate about interfaith, I'm passionate about my spiritual life, and I'm going to see where that leads me, you know.
What are you working on here at RCC TV?
Hey, we're working on some great shows here, specifically A to Z with B. We love working with B. Bailey. She has a fantastic show.
Terrific woman.
Yeah, she covers so many great topics. Like we just covered human trafficking and you know, a variety of projects with her. Fantastic show. I think everyone should tune in for her show. And we're also working with a couple of other people, Greek Voice. We're working on a new cooking show coming up in the future. So we got a lot of exciting things going on. Also have a media ministry class that we're hoping to work with Ron Jones from Channel 13 on to really help our clients learn how to really bring their production level up. So I'm excited. We've got some fun things going.
Well, and media is the wave of the future. Now, quickly, as we end, if you could wave the wand to fix something in society, what would that be?
Organic food for everybody. That's what it would be.
Good. Thank you. It's
Thanks.
nice to sit with you, Owen. Nice to visit. Thanks for doing this. I know that wasn't your first choice. Thank you.
Thanks, John.